Wife flipped the script on our family plan, insisting on only being a Sahm for our new baby, leaving me stuck renegotiating our future. I'm a 35-year-old man who's been with my wife Allie, who's 37, for 2 years now, married for 1. We're expecting our first child together in just a few months. I also have 2 wonderful kids, a boy, 8, and a girl, 6, from my previous relationship with Alex, my ex, who's 32. Alex and I have a 50-50 custody arrangement, but because she travels so much for work, I end up having the kids more often than not. That means we actually get child support from her. Before Allie and I tied the knot, we had what I thought were very clear conversations about our family dynamic. She was absolutely set on being a stay-at-home mom. I had no problem with that idea. I knew we could afford it if she was a Sahm for all of the kids, not just the new baby. I laid all of that out before we got married, made sure she knew exactly what that would mean. She enthusiastically agreed. But just the other day, she sat me down for a serious conversation. Out of nowhere, she told me she wanted her first year as a mom to be solely focused on being a Sahm to our new baby, no responsibilities for my other 2 kids at all, at least for a year. She said that after that first year, she'd be willing to step up more with my older kids, but right now, her main priority was experiencing first-time motherhood without the added responsibility. She called it her #1 boundary. I told her I couldn't make that work. There's just no way I could support a family of 5 on my salary alone without help with all 3 kids, not to mention the logistics. Someone has to be there for pickups, after-school activities, all of it. She told me to just figure it out and refused to budge on her stance. Sure, we have family support, but she insisted she wouldn't do anything for my older children during that year. On top of that, we've talked about having another child together, and I can't shake the feeling she might try to stretch this first-year thing out if we have another baby. She's hurt, angry, and feels like I'm backing out of my promise, but the way I see it, I simply cannot respect her boundary without putting everyone in a really tough position. To be clear, Alex, my ex, will be taking the kids for 2 weeks after our baby is born, and she's also promised not to travel for the month after the birth except in true emergencies. I pay someone now to do most of the before and after school care, pickups, and all of that for the older kids, and I've arranged for this person to cover an additional 4 weeks after Alex's 6-week stint so that Allie won't have any kid duties for at least 6 weeks after the birth. But after that, the expectation was that she'd step in and help with all 3 children. This isn't just about time, either, it's about money. Both of the older kids are in private school, which my ex pays tuition for, and there are no buses, so they need transportation daily. I still have to pay for pickups and drop-offs, and that's not cheap. Without Allie's income, and if she refuses to supervise my older kids, we simply can't afford to keep all these systems in place. I've shown her the numbers, the charts, the spreadsheets. She just won't budge. She wants me to make it work. What's so baffling is, until recently, she truly loved spending time with my kids. She would plan outings, fun activities, family movie nights, everything. I never would have married her if that weren't the case. Now I've had to lay it out, point blank. Either she keeps working, and I'll support her through her 12 weeks of unpaid family leave. After that, the baby will have to go to the subsidized daycare at my workplace, and everything else stays the same, or she breaks from working, and we keep paying the nanny to pick up, drop off, and watch the kids after school. That means her fun money in our budget gets eaten up. She's always waited tables on weekends and evenings to make extra cash. I'm absolutely fine with her continuing that for spending money if she wants. This has become a bigger deal now because of everything she's suggested. She actually argued that I should stop putting money into my kids' college fund so she could keep her fun money, or, even more wild, that I ask my ex to remove the kids from their private school to save money on uniforms and activities. I can't even wrap my head around how far-fetched that is. It's completely out of the question. My kids love that school, and I'd never take that away just to make being a Sahm easier for her. Right now, she's cold towards me, though never towards the kids. I'm just weary, there's only so much I can do. We have a therapist appointment on Tuesday, and I'm hoping for some clarity, but her flip-flop on this has really shaken my trust. I just want what's best for everyone, but I can't see a way to respect her boundaries without sacrificing too much. Update 1. I've known Allie since freshman year biology. We never dated back then, but we built a strong friendship that lasted for years. Only a few years ago did our relationship become romantic, which felt both natural and exciting. The thing is, over the course of our friendship and eventual marriage, Allie had always seemed to genuinely love being a bonus mom. She would light up when the kids came over for extra time, and even asked if I could coordinate with my ex so she could spend time with them, sometimes just to take them out swimming, to the zoo, or on some spontaneous adventure. Lately, though, Allie's behavior has thrown me for a loop. This sudden shift doesn't feel like the woman I married. I even suggested she talk to her doctor about it, hoping there might be an explanation, but she just yelled at me for bringing it up. I feel pretty lost trying to figure out what to do next. Earlier, Allie and I had more than one discussion about her becoming a stay-at-home mom, not just for our future children, but also committed to my 2 kids from my previous marriage to Alex. This was something we talked through multiple times, and I viewed it as a unified vision for our family's future. But recently, Allie dropped a bomb. She told me she wanted her first year as a Sahm to be solely focused on the new baby, and didn't want to take care of my 2 older kids during that time. For me, it was a non-starter, financially and emotionally. Our budget couldn't swing it, and more importantly, it felt wrong for my older kids to be sidelined. I sat down with Allie and laid everything bare. I explained how out of line her demands were, how entitled it felt, and told her flatly that if she insisted on this, I could no longer support her quitting her job. The idea of sending my kids away to their moms for 2 weeks because Allie needed just her baby was absurd to me. No normal family does that, and I certainly wouldn't either. I told her that if she went into labor during our custody time, my parents would have the older kids while we were at the hospital, but they definitely weren't being shipped off for weeks. As a compromise, one that actually went beyond what Allie herself had initially agreed to, I said I'd keep the nanny for the first 2 months after the baby was born and take care of whatever my older kids needed. I thought it was more than fair. She lost it. She accused me of not respecting her first-time motherhood, those were her exact words, something I still can't quite process, and said she shouldn't have to care for kids I didn't give birth to for the first year of her baby's life. At that point, I was exasperated and done arguing. I told her she needed to get a grip because none of this was new or unexpected. If she wasn't up for it, she should have never agreed to it, and her chance to be a Sahm was off the table. Sure, I could technically support the family on just my salary, but that would mean pulling back on things like Allie's fun money, shopping, self-care, all the things that help her feel good, and I just don't feel right telling an adult that they get no discretionary money. I showed her the budget. That backfired. She immediately rattled off her solutions: take the older kids out of private school and ask my ex to redirect that money as child support, stop contributing to my older kids' college fund, or sell my boat. Not a single one involved her giving up anything, only me or my children. The first idea in particular was so outrageous I could only imagine how my ex would react. She'd probably laugh me out of the country. I told Allie all her ideas were flat out unreasonable. If anything, her reactions showed me where her priorities really lay. So I made myself crystal clear: if she couldn't come to the table with common sense compromises, I couldn't trust her to be a Sahm for my older kids. My dedication to them is equal to my dedication to our future baby, and I have to protect them both the same way. The fact that she thought it was reasonable to stop saving for my older kids' college while still expecting her own fun money for things like Botox and highlights, it just told me everything I needed to know. In the end, I put my foot down. She couldn't quit her job, not with that mindset. Besides, my workplace offers good daycare for employees. It's not free, but very affordable, so after her FMLA leave, which is unpaid but lasts up to 3 months, we have a solid plan. Allie has been devastated since then, and pretty cold toward me, though thankfully she isn't taking it out on my kids. I don't ever want to kill her dream of being a stay-at-home mom, but I refuse to do it at the expense of my older children. We brought the issue to our therapist last week. The therapist didn't pick sides, obviously, but did attempt to show Allie how her ideas were unfair. Allie just doubled down, insisting she needs me to prioritize her needs and boundaries. The therapist clarified that what Allie described weren't really boundaries at all, but that message isn't getting through yet. So now here I am, hoping this is all just hormones, hoping that therapy helps us untangle these knots. I tried rational compromise with my wife, but when she suggested I stop saving for my older kids' college just so she could exclusively be a Sahm for our new baby, I had to draw the line. She's heartbroken, I'm frustrated, but we're working on it, and I can only hope it's just a temporary rough patch before we find our way forward together. Update 2. Things have gotten so much worse than I could have imagined. I'm honestly not sure where to even begin. Our therapy session on Tuesday was a complete disaster. Allie walked in with a completely different energy, cold, calculated, almost like she'd been planning something. When the therapist asked how we were doing since our last session, Allie immediately launched into this whole speech about how I was financially abusing her and forcing her to choose between her career and her baby. She actually used those exact words. I was stunned. The therapist looked confused too, because that's literally the opposite of what we'd discussed the week before. But here's where it gets really weird. After the session, as we're walking to our cars, Allie gets this phone call. She steps away to take it, and I hear her laughing, actually laughing, in a way I hadn't heard in weeks. When she comes back, she's almost giddy? Like someone had just told her the best news of her life. When I asked who called, she just said it was her sister and brushed it off. That night, she was suddenly in this amazing mood. Made dinner, was sweet to the kids, acted like nothing had happened. I thought maybe we were finally turning a corner. But then Thursday happened. I came home early from work, had to pick up some documents I'd forgotten. Allie's car was in the driveway, which was odd because she said she had a prenatal appointment. I walked in and heard her voice coming from our bedroom, but she was clearly on the phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard her say something like, "No, I know exactly what I'm doing. He'll come around once he realizes what he'll lose." My blood went cold. I made some noise so she'd know I was home, and when she came downstairs, she acted completely normal. Said her appointment got moved to Friday. I didn't say anything, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Friday morning, I got a call from my ex Alex. She rarely calls unless it's about the kids, so I was immediately concerned. Turns out, Allie had reached out to her. Not about scheduling or anything normal. She'd asked Alex if she would consider taking the kids more often for the first year after the baby was born, because Allie needed space to bond with her new baby. Alex was furious, and honestly, I don't blame her. She told Allie that our custody arrangement wasn't up for negotiation and that if I had problems with it, I needed to handle it myself. When I confronted Allie about this, she completely lost it. Started screaming about how I was sabotaging her motherhood experience and that I clearly loved my ex and my other kids more than her and our baby. She actually said that if I really loved her, I'd find a way to make her boundary work. The whole thing was so out of left field that I just stood there trying to process what was happening. But then came the real bombshell. Yesterday, my son casually mentioned that Miss Allie had been asking him lots of questions about his mom, where she lived, if she had a boyfriend, if she seemed happy. At first I thought maybe Allie was just trying to understand the family dynamic better, but when I asked my daughter about it separately, she said Allie had been asking her the same things, and also asked if they'd rather live with mommy all the time instead of going back and forth. I feel sick. The woman I married, who used to plan elaborate treasure hunts for my kids and take them on spontaneous ice cream runs, is now apparently trying to manipulate them and interfere with their relationship with their mother. I confronted her about this last night. She didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she said she was gathering information to help us make better decisions as a family. When I asked her what that meant, she got this look on her face, almost smug, and said that maybe it would be better for everyone if the kids lived with Alex full-time for a while so we could focus on our real family. I've never been so angry in my life. I told her that my older kids are my real family, just as much as our baby will be, and if she couldn't understand that, then maybe she wasn't the person I thought she was. She just shrugged and said I'd come to my senses eventually. The scariest part is how calculated this all feels. Like she's been planning this for a while and just waiting for the right moment to drop the bomb. I keep thinking about that phone call, her sudden mood changes, the way she's been so systematic about everything. I called my lawyer this morning. I know that sounds extreme, but I need to protect my kids, and I'm genuinely worried about what Allie might do next. I also reached out to Alex to give her a heads up about everything. She was surprisingly understanding and said she'd been getting weird vibes from Allie lately but couldn't put her finger on why. I'm sleeping in the guest room now. Allie keeps acting like nothing's wrong during the day, but at night she'll come knock on the door and ask if I'm ready to discuss this like adults. When I try to talk to her about how wrong it was to contact Alex or question my kids, she just says I'm being dramatic and that she's doing what's best for our family. Our baby is due in just over a month, and I honestly don't know what to do. The woman I'm having a child with feels like a complete stranger, and I'm starting to wonder if I ever really knew her at all. Update 3. I never thought I'd be writing another update so soon, but everything has completely imploded. I'm sitting in a hotel room right now, trying to process what's happened over the last 72 hours. So remember that phone call Allie took after therapy? The one that put her in such a good mood? Well, I found out who it was from, and it wasn't her sister. Wednesday night, I was doing laundry and found Allie's phone charger tangled up in some clothes. When I went to plug it in on her nightstand, her phone lit up with a text notification. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the preview showed a man's name, Marcus, with a message that said "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. The lawyer thinks we have a strong case." My hands were literally shaking. I knew I shouldn't, but I opened her phone. The passcode was our anniversary date, which somehow made it worse. What I found was months of messages between Allie and this Marcus guy. Turns out he's some kind of family law paralegal she met at her yoga studio. And they've been planning this whole thing. The messages were devastating. Allie had been feeding him information about our finances, Alex's travel schedule, even details about my kids' daily routines. Marcus had been coaching her on how to create a hostile environment that would make me choose between her and my older kids. The whole Sahm boundary thing? It was calculated from the beginning. But here's the part that made my blood run cold. They weren't just plotting about custody and money. These two have been having an emotional affair for months, maybe physical too, I honestly don't know anymore. Messages about missing each other, how he understood her in ways I never could, how she deserved better than being a stepmom to someone else's kids. The worst part was a message from 3 weeks ago where Marcus wrote, "Once the baby comes, you'll have all the leverage you need. He won't risk losing his biological child." And Allie's response, "Exactly. He'll have to choose, and we both know he'll choose me and the baby over them." I took screenshots of everything before I lost my nerve. Then I just sat there on our bed, staring at the evidence that my pregnant wife had been systematically planning to manipulate me into abandoning my children. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about every conversation we'd had, every time she'd been so understanding about my custody arrangement, every sweet moment with my kids, wondering how much of it was real. Thursday morning, I called in sick to work and drove straight to my lawyer's office. She took one look at the screenshots and told me I needed to document everything immediately. We spent 3 hours going through every text, every timeline, every financial detail Allie had shared with this Marcus character. That evening, I confronted her. I walked into the kitchen where she was making dinner and just put my phone on the counter with the messages open. "Want to explain this?" The look on her face, I'd never seen anything like it. Not shame, not guilt. Just cold calculation, like she was trying to figure out her next move. She didn't deny it. Instead, she said, "So what? You were never going to put me first anyway." I asked her about Marcus, about how long this had been going on. She laughed, actually laughed, and said it wasn't cheating because they'd never done anything physical. When I pointed out the emotional affair and the legal plotting, she got defensive and said she was just protecting her interests. Your interests? I asked. What about our baby's interests? What about my kids' interests? That's when she said something I'll never forget. Your kids aren't my problem anymore. They have a mother. My baby needs to come first. I told her I was done. That I was calling Alex to take the kids for the weekend while we figured things out, and that I'd be staying somewhere else. She completely flipped out, screaming about how I was abandoning her while she was pregnant, how I was proving her right about my priorities. But then, as I was packing a bag, she completely switched tactics. Suddenly she was crying, apologizing, saying she didn't know what had come over her. She begged me not to leave, said she'd delete Marcus's number, that we could work it out. The whiplash was terrifying. I spent the weekend at my parents' house with my kids. I didn't tell them what was happening, just said Mommy Allie needed some rest. My mom could tell something was wrong, but I wasn't ready to talk about it yet. When I came back Sunday night, Allie was gone. No note, no text. Her car was gone, most of her clothes were missing. I panicked and started calling her, thinking something had happened with the baby. She finally answered around 10 p.m. She was at Marcus's place, said she needed space to think and that she'd come back when I was ready to prioritize my family correctly. I haven't heard from her since. Her sister called yesterday asking what happened, saying Allie had shown up crying but wouldn't explain why. I gave her a very basic rundown, that we'd had a disagreement about our arrangement after the baby was born and Allie had left to stay with a friend. What her sister told me next made my stomach drop. Apparently, Allie had been talking about me not appreciating her for months. She'd been painting me as this terrible husband who expected her to be a free babysitter for my ex's kids. Her whole family thinks I'm some kind of monster. My lawyer says we need to move fast on a separation agreement, especially with the baby coming so soon. The good news is that the text messages show pretty clearly that Allie was trying to manipulate the situation, which could help me if she tries to claim I'm an unfit father or something. Alex has been amazing through all of this. She offered to adjust our custody schedule temporarily if I need more stability for the kids, and she's been checking in to make sure I'm okay. It's ironic, my ex-wife is being more supportive than my actual wife. I keep thinking about that woman who used to build blanket forts with my kids and surprise them with their favorite snacks. I don't know if that person was ever real or if it was all just an act to get me to marry her. The baby is due in 4 weeks. I have no idea what's going to happen when labor starts, or where we go from here. Part of me hopes this is just some kind of pregnancy-induced breakdown and that we can fix this. But another part of me is terrified that this is who she really is, and I've just been too blind to see it. Right now, my priority is keeping my kids safe and stable. Everything else feels like chaos. Update 4. The baby came early. 2.5 weeks early, and everything went to hell in ways I never could have imagined. It started last Tuesday night. I was at home with the kids, trying to maintain some normalcy while Allie was still playing house at Marcus's place. Around 11 p.m., I got a frantic call from her. She was having contractions and needed to get to the hospital. Despite everything that had happened, she was still carrying my child, so I dropped everything and met her there. The labor was long and complicated. Allie kept asking for Marcus, saying she needed her support person, which was like a knife to the chest. But when things got scary during delivery, baby's heart rate dropped, emergency C-section, the whole nightmare scenario. Suddenly it was my hand she was squeezing, my name she was crying out for. Our daughter was born healthy, thank God, 7 pounds, 2 ounces, absolutely perfect. When they placed her on Allie's chest, for about 30 seconds, everything felt normal again. Like we were just new parents having this incredible moment. That feeling lasted exactly until Allie's first visitor showed up Thursday morning. Marcus walked into that hospital room like he owned the place, carrying flowers and acting like the proud father. I was holding my daughter when he arrived, and the look he gave me was pure smugness. Congratulations, he said, but he was looking at Allie the entire time. I should have left right then, but my daughter was so tiny, so perfect, and I couldn't bring myself to walk away. So I stayed and watched this man, who'd been actively plotting to destroy my family, coo over my newborn like he had any right to be there. Things got weird fast. Allie started making comments about how Marcus was so natural with babies and how he'd make such a good father someday. Meanwhile, she barely wanted me to hold our daughter. Every time I reached for her, Allie would find some reason why I needed to wait. She was about to nurse, she needed her diaper changed, whatever. But she handed her to Marcus without hesitation. On Friday, my mom brought my older kids to meet their baby sister. That's when I realized just how deep this manipulation went. My daughter, who's usually shy around strangers, immediately asked why the strange man was holding her baby sister. Kids see everything, and they could sense something was off. The breaking point came Saturday morning. I walked into Allie's hospital room and found Marcus sitting in the chair I'd been sleeping in for 3 nights, holding my daughter while Allie dozed. He looked up at me and said, "We need to talk." What he told me next still makes me sick. Apparently, he and Allie had been planning this for even longer than I thought. The pregnancy wasn't some happy surprise. They'd been strategizing about how to use a baby as leverage against me for months. Marcus laid it out like he was proud of their scheming, get pregnant, wait until I was emotionally invested, then create an impossible situation where I'd have to choose between my existing kids and my new family. But here's the twist that knocked me on my ass. Marcus isn't just some random paralegal Ali met at yoga. He works at the same firm that handled my divorce from Alex 3 years ago. He knew our entire custody arrangement, our financial situation, everything, before he ever met Ali. He specifically targeted her after seeing her name on some of my paperwork as my emergency contact. When I asked him why he was telling me all this, he got this sick smile and said, "Because phase 2 starts now." Turns out, they don't just want me to abandon my older kids, they want full custody of the baby. Marcus had convinced Ali that since I was choosing my other children over her, I was an unfit father who would do the same thing to their daughter. I immediately called my lawyer from the hospital parking lot. She told me to get out of there immediately and document everything. I went back upstairs, took one last look at my sleeping daughter, and told Ali I'd be back with my attorney. That's when she played her final card. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "If you walk out that door, you'll never see her again. Marcus knows people in family court. We'll make sure of it." I'm ashamed to say I hesitated. For about 10 seconds, I actually considered caving to her demands just to stay close to my baby. But then I thought about my son and daughter waiting at home, probably wondering why I'd been gone so long, and I knew I couldn't betray them. "Try me," I said, and walked out. That was 4 days ago. Since then, it's been a complete nightmare. Ali checked herself and the baby out of the hospital the next day and disappeared. She's not at Marcus's place. I drove by like a crazy person. Her sister claims she doesn't know where they are, but she's definitely lying. Even worse, Alex got served with papers yesterday. Somehow, Ali and Marcus are trying to challenge our custody arrangement, claiming that my inability to maintain stable relationships makes me an unfit father for all 3 children. The petition is insane, full of lies about how I've been neglecting my older kids, how I have anger issues, even claims that I've been financially irresponsible. They're using my boat purchase from 2 years ago as evidence that I prioritize toys over my children's needs. My lawyer says it's desperate and poorly written, but that doesn't make it less terrifying. But here's what's keeping me up at night. I haven't seen my newborn daughter in 4 days. I don't know if she's okay, if she's being fed properly, nothing. Ali won't answer my calls, and Marcus apparently advised her to cut off all contact until their legal strategy is in place. My older kids know something's wrong. My son keeps asking when baby's sister is coming home, and my daughter made a drawing of our family that included the baby but not Ali. Kids are so much smarter than we give them credit for. Alex has been incredible through all of this. She's adjusted our custody schedule so I have more consistency with the kids while I deal with a legal mess. Yesterday, she sat me down and said something that stuck with me. "I think you dodged a bullet, but I'm sorry it took so long to explode." The hardest part is the guilt. I keep wondering if I missed signs earlier, if I could have prevented this somehow. Was I so desperate to give my kids a complete family that I ignored red flags? Looking back, there were moments, times when Ali would make subtle comments about how complicated my situation was, or how much easier life would be without all the back and forth with Alex. My lawyer thinks we have a strong case, especially with all the text evidence of their manipulation. But she warned me that custody battles involving newborns can get ugly fast, and that Ali might try to use breastfeeding as a weapon to limit my access to the baby. I have a court date next week for emergency visitation rights. Until then, I'm just trying to be the best father I can to the kids I do have with me while fighting for the right to be a father to the one I don't. The strangest part? Part of me still loves the woman I thought I married. But I'm starting to realize that woman might never have existed at all.